All right, I think we can get started as people are signing in. Welcome everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Emily Hughes, I'm the head of marketing at Mobilize. We're excited you could join for our digital fundraising 101 session with our friends at ActBlue. A couple things before we get started. First, if you have any questions while Anna and Kay are speaking, you can leave it in the Q&A feature. I can answer some questions as we go along, and then we'll definitely have time to ask Anna and Kay questions at the end. We will definitely send out a recording of this tomorrow. So if for any reason you have to drop off early, or if you want to share it with a friend, you will have that in your inbox by tomorrow morning at the latest. And you are all muted and your videos are off. So don't worry, we cannot see you or hear you, just our lovely panelists. So with that, I will hand it off to Anna and Kay, who are our amazing presenters today.
Wonderful. Thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Kanyinsola from the Mobilize team. You may call me Kay. I'm just going to quickly walk you through our agenda. As you might recall, this is Digital Fundraising 101. And today we're focusing on engaging your small dollar donors. So we'll briefly go over introductions. We'll spend some time talking about why you should be leveraging virtual fundraising. We'll talk about how to integrate donor requests into the volunteer experience. And then we'll also talk a bit about how to tailor your messaging, especially during the multiple crises that are happening in this country at once. Finally, we'll have some time to go over any questions. And of course, we'll give all of you our contact information. So as I said earlier, my name is Kanyinsola and I manage strategic partnerships here at Mobilize, which means I work with our partners who are looking to use our product for any reason at all. At Mobilize, we know that the volunteers, are really small dollar donors, which is why I'm so excited about this call, because we know that especially in the nonprofit space, folks need to start thinking about their volunteers and their supporters more dynamically. There really isn't a difference there anymore, especially in the small dollar online fundraising world. So, Mobilize, we are a digital platform for progressive organizations, mission-driven organizations, causes, and candidates to come and really find moments and points of engagement for their supporters. We are laser focused on making sure you can drive action more easily so that you can achieve whatever your mission might be. That means we are focused on making sure you can do 3 key things with ease. These are the kind of pillars that help drive our product decisions. The first is we want to make sure that you can double supporter engagement. The second is we want to make sure you can drive your list growth. And finally, we want to make sure that you can turn your volunteers into donors. We know that, our conversion optimized platform and automated nudges can help make sure your supporters are not only engaged with you, they not only sign up, but they do show up at the end of the day. With access to our network and with tools like social sharing, you're able to grow your list size. And then finally, with the addition of fundraising functionality, you're able to turn your volunteers into donors because we can now engage them at really high points of attention and turn them into donors during those points. At Mobilize, we're really built to help you maximize action. We're really helping you think through the entirety of your supporter journey, all the way from discovery, to re-engagement, and even to having your supporters create events. All right, over to you, Anna.
Thanks, Kay. Hey, everyone. I'm Anna Finklestein. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a nonprofit outreach associate with ActBlue. Super excited to be here. Before I share a little bit about who we are at ActBlue, I wanted to share a little bit about me and how I got into this work. I'm actually a former high school history teacher. I did that for about 7 years and was a community organizer on the side, and most often found myself in resource mobilization roles and fundraising. And I really saw the power, both for myself and for others, of strong grassroots donor programs in building really powerful movements full of invested people who are ready to throw down. So when I decided to leave teaching because I was so burnt out, I decided I wanted to get into this work full time. And so in my role at ActBlue, I work with C3s, C4s, to help them figure out how to build strong digital fundraising programs that inspire grassroots donors to give. So there's me with my cat, Elliot, and also my email address, which you'll see again at the end. And I just want to say, feel free to reach out to me at any time. You can reach me there. And again, my email will be at the end. I'm so excited to work with organizations. That's my favorite part of my work. So a little bit about ActBlue. So ActBlue is a mission-driven nonprofit organization. We provide a digital fundraising platform that makes it super easy for grassroots donors to give. Our mission is to really eliminate the barriers to giving by making the process as streamlined as possible so that people can feel heard and we can build people-powered democratic movements, right? Where folks feel like they have a stake and a say. And we believe that when small dollar donors are inspired and empowered to chip in, our movements are the better for it. And we actually think that they can be more powerful than even the biggest mega donor. Yeah, super excited to share more soon. But first I'll pass it back to Kay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anna. Yes, I like to believe that the people are greater than those in power at any point in time. Okay, so first of all, the question comes to mind, why should you be leveraging virtual fundraising? Especially leveraging events, which is where Mobilize tends to come in. And I think the answers are quite simple. They're all the things we really don't have alternatives at this time. Everyone from Joe Biden to your local state senator is doing it. No, but apart from that, we believe that, your volunteers and your supporters are already meeting you online. And this gives you the opportunity to meet your supporters where they are. Right? We know that as they're meeting you online, as they're signing up to take action with you, to sign your petition, to sign up for your event, they're already highly engaged with you. And we think this is a great point. This is a great time to capture that high engagement and really take that supporter relationship to the next level. And obviously, ActBlue is really a premier fundraising platform in the space, which can really help you do that. And we know that with ActBlue and Mobilize, you can do some really great things. So I'm going to showcase a couple examples here that we've seen folks do on our platform that have, a couple examples of fundraising events that we've seen folks host on our platform, that we think you can think about as you're thinking of how to create your own virtual fundraising events. So this is Mission graduates, and I believe they're based out of the Mission in San Francisco. And for their own particular event, they were looking to increase their smaller donations from a broader group of people. And so they anchored a message from a CEO. You could sign up to receive the message. And not only could you easily access the link in the event description, but after the event, you as the organizer could follow up with that link. You could include it in all sign-up materials, and you could even include it as a redirect link. So as people are signing up to watch their message, they can be redirected to your ActBlue page to donate to your organization. Now, this redirect is really important, and I want to pause to take a second because so far our stats show us that about 20% of people who come in and come across that redirect link do end up initiating a donation that averages around $23. So again, a really key high point of engagement in how you can start raising money from your small dollar supporters. Excuse me. The second example here is of No Vet Alone, a great organization working to help prevent suicide in the veteran community. And they included a happy hour with the LA Dodgers. Now, obviously, if you have a prominent speaker or a celebrity, that's always a really good anchor to drive more people. But as you have those anchors, whether it's your own CEO or someone from your board, or if you're able to get an entire sports team, we want to make sure that you're not missing that opportunity. So as people are signing up, we want to make sure, again, that we're leveraging those key moments and strategically including those donation asks, to make sure you're making the most of it. So we know that No Vet Alone hosted this event on Mobilize. Folks signed up with the Mobilize Zoom integrations. They didn't get lost. They got to the right place at the end of the day. To be able to show up and receive that registration link, you had to send in a donation, and they shared it with them. And then, that was also a chance for supporter education. Okay, passing this. Next, we're going to talk a bit about how to integrate donor requests into your volunteer experience overall. So we know that mission-driven organizations usually think about volunteers and donors as separate, right? This is something I spoke about earlier, but we know that they're the same people. The person who is signing up to make calls for you or to knock doors for you whenever the pandemic is over is also likely going to be able to chip in $1 or $2 when you ask them at that right moment. And so we propose a more holistic view of how you view the supporters overall. This is an example of what it looks like after you sign up for a Mobilize action or event and where you can really insert those asks. So again, after someone has signed up to make calls for you to sign your petition, whatever it is, you have the power to ask them if they'd like to donate. Phrase this however you want to, put something there, this could affect, 5 more kids that we're raising money for. Could you chip in $5, right? And not only are we asking them to do that, you can also ask them to share with a friend to bring more people into this journey with them. We propose all of these donation asks in different parts of the Mobilize experience. So if you remember that onboarding, the volunteer journey slide I showed you earlier, one of those key points of engagement is in the follow-up. Mobilize automatically sends to supporters and volunteers to ensure they show up. Actually, today, if you're on this call, you signed up through Mobilize. And so you've been through this. You received one of these reminder emails, right? And at that key point, you can, again, ask for folks to donate a bit more to your cause. We know that individuals who volunteer their time are twice as likely to donate. And so we are automating these asks in all part of the volunteer experience. And this is an example of what it looks like in the confirmation and reminder emails. And then finally, we know that, with Mobilize, we want to make sure you're flexible, whatever tool you're using. We in the progressive space, especially in the electoral space, obviously have a preference for ActBlue because of all the great work they've done over the years. But if your fundraising team uses something else, you can use it. We don't limit the kind of tool you can fundraise with. At the end of the day, Mobilize's comprehensive approach, helps you effortlessly turn your volunteers and your supporters into donors, which, is truly the most important thing I think anyone can take from this call, which is that your supporters, your volunteers, and your small dollar donors, they're all the same people and can help you really build a lasting organization. All right, passing it over to you, Anna.
Yeah, that was such a beautiful transition into the core of ActBlue's work, right? We believe that small dollar donors build people-powered movements. And Kay was talking a lot about this in terms of seeing your volunteers as your donors, not as two different populations of people. And I just want to speak a little bit more to that because, I think that we know that small dollar donors are most likely the people who are impacted by the cause, impacted by the problem that you're trying to solve. They're the people who actually have the greatest stake in you doing the work and you winning. And those people are ready to show up. They're ready to sign petitions. They're ready to go to protests. They're ready. They're not just going to sign a check and leave. And so, in sort of a reciprocal kind of way, they're ready to show up. They are stakeholders, and sort of the opposite then is true, that they're not ATMs either, right? That these are people who are stakeholders. They are valued members of our movements. However much they give, we want to make sure that our tools are going to be as streamlined as possible for folks to give and show their support, because small dollar donors are here, they want to get involved, and the next chart that I'm going to show you will give you a sense of the numbers. So without even looking at this for too long, you're going to see that over time, the number of contributions, the total amount raised, even the contributions, total amount raised, all of that has gone up exponentially. Because I think people have this there's a myth that there's scarcity in the small dollar world. There's a myth that it's only going to go so far. But I do want to share that through my work at ActBlue and through our work over the last many years, we just continue to see that number rising. We see no ceiling to that. And that's really, really powerful. And so we want to encourage people away from the mindset of scarcity and really embrace abundance in the grassroots donor movement. There's only potential for it to grow. And so how do we engage all of that growth? ActBlue has a number of tools. We have our fundraising platform that we constantly work to optimize. And I just wanted to share a few new features that have come out recently, just to give you a sense of how we're not quite there yet, thanks. How we're managing COVID and trying to do what we do even better. So a few things I want to share is we now offer all of our forms in Spanish as well as English, including instructions and receipts, which is really awesome. We've done a lot of work around accessibility to make sure that the colors we've chosen, the font and font size are going to reach as many people as possible. We also have added some cool new features that allow you to embed live stream videos directly into contribution forms. So back to what Kay was saying about the power of virtual events, there's a way to embed those events directly onto a form. So much more to say. Definitely reach out to me if you want to learn more. And now I'm ready, Kay, thanks. Next slide. So organizing in 2020. So we know that folks are looking for a way to get involved. The numbers show it. We see it all the time in our work. I'm sure you see it too. And organizing is a little bit different these days, right? Now that we can't really gather physically, we're online, we're over email, and we're trying to do everything that way. What are some things to be thinking about as we think about organizing in 2020? And what you see on the screen are three sort of key points that I want you to hold on to. The first is that small dollar donors want to create change. People are really, really hungry for ways to feel involved. And it might be that folks don't have the capacity to give money right now, but people want to be involved to the extent that they can. And so really, use this as an opportunity to engage folks and meet them where they're at. And as you probably know, a crisis always requires organizing. And thankfully, because of the work that you all do, you have resources, you have skills, you have expertise, right? How can you rally your network to support your community and the needs of your community right now? And then finally, people are looking for leadership, right? A lot of folks feel even more failed than usual by government. I think a lot of people have been feeling that for a very long time / forever. But right now there's a particularly unique moment for grassroots leaders to really fill that gap, fill that void, and be a leader in community. So with that in mind, let's talk about fundraising in this moment, because I will say that the number one question I get from organizations that are not working on the front lines of COVID relief and the Black-led uprising and working on the front lines of racial justice, people are asking, like, should I be sending fundraising emails right now? And I just want to clear it up. The answer is yes. It's always yes. It's always been yes, and it will continue to be yes. So I know it can be awkward. Is this the time to be sending an email? So I'm going to offer some advice on how to do that. But first, I really want to encourage folks, if you haven't already, to just shift, to do a little reset on your fundraising mindset, because I know that it can feel awkward. But what I want to encourage folks to do is to actually think about asking for money as a gift that you're giving your community to get invested in the work that they care about. We are all inundated with requests to spend our money all the time, right? Hello, capitalism. How often do people get to give money to things that they really care about to help assist in seeing the change that they want to see? And we know that not everyone can give, and that's okay, and it's important to acknowledge. And don't make those decisions for your donors. They get to make that decision of when they can give, how much that they can give. Do not exclude folks by making assumptions about who can and cannot give in this time. You're good. Thanks, Kay.
And I really love that point about rephrasing how you view your donors and how you view fundraising, and really giving them the opportunity to get involved with the great work that you're doing. Okay, so I want to talk a bit about tailoring your messaging to current events and why that is so important, right? We want to make sure that you're not just things can come out as tone deaf, and I think it is a fair concern for people to ask, should I be fundraising at the time? And to me, the underlying concern there is, will I come off as tone deaf, right? We think it is so important that as you're putting these asks throughout, you are rephrasing how you're thinking of fundraising, and by reframing how you're thinking of who your donor is. When you're thinking of a volunteer, I tend to think of someone who's already invested in your work. If you can think of that donor in the same, in that same space, because they're not two different populations, they're usually the same people, I think it can really help you and your comms folks think about how to tailor that messaging, right? as we're thinking about what it looks like to invest more in the work.
Yeah, and I'm happy to speak a little bit more to ways to think about being sensitive in your messaging, because I am advocating that you send emails and stay engaged, not just fundraising asks, all kinds of emails to build community online. And it's important to be thoughtful about the moment that we're in. And so a couple of things to keep in mind. And really you'll notice that the theme here is transparency and candidness. And the first thing I want to talk about is transparency in your short and your long-term plans. It might be that your campaign's long-term goals have stayed the same, but it may be that your short-term goals have changed to respond to this moment. You should absolutely share those, both short and long-term goals. Don't be afraid to say things have changed, we're responding to the moment. And in that same vein, talk about what you need, right? Talk about what you need, provide transparent updates. People want to hear it. And in doing so, be candid. You know, this is definitely the time to be vulnerable, to be funny, to be real to the extent that you feel is appropriate, and to the extent that you feel comfortable. People are really particularly seeking that in this moment. And don't be afraid to share how you're showing up for your community and how they can show up for you. One thing that we recommend at ActBlue is that, you know, if it makes sense for your organization, that you survey your base and see what people are needing right now. Because that way you can be even more responsive when you're saying, this is how we're showing up for you. It can be, we heard you, and this is how we're showing up for you in response. So that can be really powerful. And as I mentioned, you know, just a few minutes ago, remember that not everyone can give right now, and it's worth being explicit about that. But again, don't make that decision for folks, but you can still acknowledge it. So I want to just offer a couple of ways to think about utilizing email to build an online campaign and community. And the reason why I'm saying email here is that we know at ActBlue that email is still #1. Social is really great for sharing stories and information, but in terms of fundraising and other asks, email is still #1. And so here's a list of things that you can think about when you imagine what you can do, what organizing over email looks like. And it looks like newsletters, it looks like stories. A lot of you are already doing this, right? So this shouldn't be new. You've already been organizing online. Now you're just maybe doing more of it. Petitions, surveys, right? All of these are ways to be communicating with, being in community with your base during this time. And we're ready for questions.
Great. I've answered a couple questions as they've come in, but we have some that have come up that I am not the expert on, so I will toss your way. If anyone else has questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A or in the chat, and I will ask them to Anna and Kay. The two questions that came up are around creative ways to fundraise, which I'm sure everyone is struggling with right now. So the first one says, is pushing a deadline an effective way to raise money? How do you effectively use the deadline date or the event date to do so? Any thoughts?
I can start. Yeah. Is that okay, Kay?
No, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, happy to start. So this reminds me of something we talk a lot about ActBlue, which is when to make an ask and what kind of ask to make. And certainly deadlines and events are a really, really great reason to send out fundraising emails. And they're also a really great opportunity to ask for one-time contributions. At ActBlue, we know that it's super important for organizations to develop a recurring base so that you can better predict your budget, right? And really estimate into the future. But rapid response moments, deadlines, events is not the time to make those requests. For the most part, that's really a good opportunity to ask for a one-time contribution, make a hard ask, and absolutely use the deadline as an opportunity to build momentum.
Absolutely. And I think as long as it is genuine, I think folks generally understand. You know, it can get fatiguing when you just see the red alarm, you know, like this is do or die situation. So back to Anna's point about being truthful about your fundraising can really help with that. But also, if you're engaging your supporters constantly through Mobilize, if they've been attending your events, your workshops, if they've been creating points of engagement for you, when you are making that ask, they should be more willing and open to that.
Great. We have had a couple people ask the same question, so I'm going to read one of them, but know that we're getting to everybody. This one says, what are some fun, creative ways that you have all heard on how to motivate people to give for fundraising campaigns during digital fundraising? For example, they have a blooper reel of their campaign videos that they would release if they hit a certain goal by a certain time. Would that be appropriate? I personally love that idea, but I will ask Anna and Kay because they're more experts than I am.
Yes, I love that idea. I think it's absolutely appropriate. It just depends on how your community is, and it sounds like you have a fun-loving community. I think if you also, you know, the way organizing goes, and I get dropped in a lot of different Slacks for folks that I'm either phone banking for or, you know, trying to help do something. And it's always fun when it's sort of a challenge. Can you help us, you know, meet this deadline? Can you help us fundraise this much money? And when you pose it towards your supporters who are already invested in your work like that, I think it helps share that work. And it does seem fun to me. But Anna, if you have specific examples, would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought, Kay, is what you sort of said in the beginning is like, you know your base better than any of us. And so the first question is based on what you know about your email list, right? What's going to be exciting? What's going to be well received? I'm all about creativity. The one thing I just would recommend is make sure that you don't lose some of the key pieces of a fundraising ask, like what is the problem that you're trying to solve? Really briefly, what's your theory of change? And what's your hard ask? We know that those things in combination make good fundraising asks. So however you're going to be delivering that, I think is great. Just make sure that you're not losing some of the like essentials of the ask.
Great question. Kay, this one's for you. I have given some support to this person, but I think you would know better than I am. They're trying to customize the donations ask. They use ActBlue, by the way, for their donations. They're trying to customize their donations ask by event instead of just by all of their events on Mobilize. Is that possible?
Absolutely. I do not think that is possible at this time, but the best person to help you with this would actually be our support team. So if you're currently in Mobilize, you'll see the little intercom blue bubble. And if you ask someone with more up-to-date product information, because the product is always updating, I will have a more appropriate answer for you.
I think that's also really good feedback for us to take back to the product team. So we will do that for you. Any other questions? We have a couple more minutes. Yeah, so Janice just asked, can you go over the list of asks for basic fundraising? Anna, is that something you have insight on?
Yeah, I just want a little bit more clarity on what, Janice, what you mean when you say list of asks.
Janice, if you can just type in a couple more details to clarify, that would be great.
Unless someone else understands.
You're a fundraising guru, Anna.
Oh, so like the components of a basic fundraising ask, I think is maybe great. Glad I got that. Okay, so components of a good fundraising ask has a hook, which could be a video, it could be something very creative, or a line. I like to think of this as like your high school English class where you opened with a hook that maybe was a little cheesy, but not too cheesy. You know, I guess English teachers probably debated that. So a hook, an explainer, you want to explain a little bit, right? The hook usually captures the problem, and the explainer that follows it will give a little bit more information on what the problem is. And then usually within the ask itself, there is a theory of change, right? So give blank today so that we can offer this, right? This is how we are going to solve it. We're going to buy backpacks. We're going to do whatever it is. Help us. We can't do it without you. We need you. So what you hear in that is a clear ask. So $5, give $5 or more today. Give $15 or more today. Do it. If you do it, this is what's going to happen. That's our theory of change, how we're going to address the challenge. We can do it together. That sets up what we call a horizontal relationship. Something that we've learned about strong asks is that when they're set up like we're in this together, people are much more likely to respond than we have the answer, you need to help us. And so those are some things to be thoughtful about. And then below that initial first ask, you can provide more information, more stories. You're going to lose a lot of people by the time you get there, but that's where you can sort of build out your story and then maybe include one more ask towards the bottom of the email. Other things to think about, and this is something that ActBlue offers, embedded donate buttons directly into emails are really great. With ActBlue, Express users don't actually have to leave the email to donate. They can actually literally just click $10 in the book, in the body of the email itself, and their donation will be processed.
The feature I love, I'll look at my statement, I'll be like, oh my God, I forgot I donated.
Yeah.
That was a great question, Janice. We'll pause for just another 15 seconds, see if there's any other questions that come in. Otherwise, we can wrap up. think we might, oh, just in time, Ben. Okay, are there any studies on how much people give as we get closer to the election? Do people worry and give more or exhaust and give less? That is a really interesting question. Anna, do you know?
You know, I don't know about the dollar amount. I know that more people give. The number of contributions and the number of new donors goes up. We're really, really bracing ourselves for a very busy time. So I can tell you that. I don't actually know about the dollar amount, though. It's a really great question.
That's fascinating. All right. Well, I think we can wrap up. Thank you so much to Anna and Kay, our amazing presenters today. Again, we will send out a recording of this by tomorrow morning. So you can send it to your friends. You can review. The slides will be in there and everything. If you have questions, you can email Anna or Kay or me. You all have my email address because you signed up for a Mobilize event that I am the host of. So if you email the host, that goes directly to my inbox. And we are happy to help. So thank you so much. Thank you again, Anna and Kay, and we will see you all soon.
Thank you all. Bye.